Welcome everyone. We got an interview, special interview here with my powerlifting coach, Brandon, or Bundun. You can find him on Instagram, Coach Bundun, twitch.tv/Bundun. He is a fantastic powerlifting coach, and I have since adopted him as my coach because for a lot of you guys know, like I was struggling with some QL pain, which is basically the side of your back, the lower back. My lower left section of my back was getting strained very easily. This is the QL region, quadratus lumborum. It was getting strained, and two different powerlifting coaches briefly looked at my form. They didn't see a huge issue, or they couldn't coach it out of me. Two physical therapists went to them for 3 plus months, and spent hours and hours of doing mobility work and working on glute med. This is a glute med stability issue over and over. Zero difference. Brandon saw him. I saw him streaming on Twitch randomly. I was like, he looks familiar, this sexy hoppa man. He spent 5 minutes looking at my lifts, asking me questions, and he asked questions, which I think is a huge sign of someone who knows what they're doing. Someone who's very wise. They try to hear context. 5 minutes, he coached it. He not only did he spot the problem, he coached it out of me with the correct cues. So he is fantastic. Payet says, so is Tom saying that you can fix anything? Yes, he is perfect. He knows everything. So, yeah. Yes. So that's great. I have a huge respect for this man as a teacher, a coach, all that stuff. And I want to get stronger. I want to, after I stop being sick and injured, but I feel like I'm ready to go. So he's gonna be coaching me and giving me a plan. So we're gonna go over this plan today, and then I'll be picking his brain about this a bit, and then we're gonna go on to kind of do some general powerlifting questions about like why should we care about powerlifting, why should you get a coach, that kind of stuff. And then afterward, we're going to do some quick. Actually, we're not gonna do Q&A here. We're just gonna go raid him on his Twitch channel afterward to. You guys can do form checks over there and also ask him questions over there. So that being said, Brandon, welcome, man, over there in Australia. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. What an introduction.
Yeah.
You're actually so nice and so humble. It's, I don't know. It's very nice hearing those kind words. And like, dude, I've actually been like watching a stream for a while. So it's really cool to be, you know, on your stream now. Yeah, it's awesome, dude.
Dude, the honor is all mine, man. Like, I'm serious. Like when I say, I don't know a lot. There's a lot of things I don't know. And whenever I meet someone who's a subject matter expert and can teach it and is wise and ask questions of the person, understand where they're coming from, that person is rare and they're very valuable. And what I'm saying is toss a coin to your witcher or toss a coin to your coach. So, which I'll be doing shortly after this. What? Crazy. So that's why like I immediately jived with him because he just we spoke the same language and it was just awesome. All right.
I think we have very similar values, to be honest. Like, anyway, we can talk about that more later.
Oh, for sure. No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, I think like in terms of like talking and getting to know the person before like teaching them stuff, I think that's really important. And I think as well, one of the barriers on Twitch is like you have so many people in your chat, you don't have time as well to like really get personal with them, but you need to give them feedback. Right. And I think that can be hard sometimes. But I think you also do a good job as well, like generalizing the information you give out, where it's not like too out of your scope that it's like gonna be wrong information, but it's not too specific either that it's not gonna, you know, not work for that individual. So I think you do a good job with how you relay information on Twitch.
Thank you.
So
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's a nice.
And also I think it's really, So I also think it's really smart that you say you don't know stuff, because I actually think one of the biggest problems right now in the current climate of social media is people are afraid to say, I don't know. Like, look, I obviously do a lot of powerlifting stuff, but there's a lot of things in fitness that I don't really know. And I think it takes a level of not intellect, but experience to realize even if you are an expert in a field, there's so many things you're just not going to be 100% sure of. And to just be like, oh, I know this, I'm going to just try is not right, because it can lead to a lot of misinformation. Hashtag all the coronavirus stuff right now. And everyone trying to be an expert, but not even the experts really know what's up. It's pretty funny. There's a lot of misinformation out there.
Absolutely.
That too. So
Yeah. And so actually speaking of that, exclamation mark coaching, we are going to be, because we have such mad mutual respect for each other. Oh my, Woo! this Brandon guy. We're putting together a group coaching thing with me, Brandon, and also Sahil. He's a doctor, and we'll be doing a very holistic view of this. So exclamation mark coaching, and just fill out the Google form if you're interested in hearing more information. We try to send out more information towards the end of the month or maybe beginning of next month. I'm not sure with coronavirus shutting down gyms and whatnot. We might have to like reassess when we start this. But anyway, all that being said, let's get to it. So I'm just going to pull this up on screen, and I'll let you take the reins about talking over this program and what we're looking at.
Okay. Okay. So on the program, so what you have on stream right now, there's 2 sheets. So this one is like your kind of general plan. So when I've talked to Tom sent me a massive kind of questionnaire, and he pretty much just told me what he wanted to do.
Yep.
And from what I could see, what he wanted to do was, you can tell me if I'm right here. It's almost, you've been injured for so long, you've never really got to properly test your like maxes. So you just want to, dedicate a good 6 months or somewhere around that time frame to actually be able to test your 1RMs for once in your life. To me as well, which I had to note, it was almost like you do have, I guess, more aspiration about like body composition. I feel like that's more your main goal. Like if I was like, this is Tom's main goal, it would be towards that. So it's almost like similar to what I'm doing. It's like, you just want to get a PR and then retire from strength.
Yes. Yes.
So I have to take that into consideration too, because it's like, okay, we have 6 months. I need to have this properly planned out because one, I don't want to get hurt. And he only wants to do this really one time. He may want to do it again in the future, but for now, that's what he wants. So this is just pretty much that plan. Another side point is I don't really share the plan with all my clients. It kind of depends on the person. Knowing Tom and working a little bit with Tom before, I know that he's very conscientious, and he's very orderly, and he likes to have a lot of structure, and that's something that Tom enjoys. So me showing him a plan is probably motivating for him and very satisfying to him.
Yes, it is. I do like that reassurance of like, I'm in good hands. And also because like too much detail doesn't overwhelm me. And also because I have an audience, I like to share with them what's going on, because I do enjoy seeing the big picture as well as the details.
So that's, I guess, the idea of why I've shown you it and like why I've also written out. I usually will write out something like this for everybody. But yeah, if I was to show it, it depends on the person. And there, we can go into detail if you want about like the specifics of.
Well, let's just start with you introducing me to what this is. I briefly skimmed it.
Yes.
That was about it. I saved most of this conversation for today.
Okay. So pretty much I know that from like current today till about April, obviously you have the front page Twitch stuff. You don't really have as much time to like train properly, and you were going through a cut as well. So I need to take that in consideration, like how many calories and like what training are you coming from till we start. So in April, we kind of have like almost like it's like a transitional phase to more structured training, more time with training. And in that time, we plan to like build a little bit of muscle, but most importantly, like look at your technique a bit more and see how the structured training affects your performance and affects your recovery and affects your QL and all that kind of thing. So it's kind of like, I know it doesn't say transitional there, but it's still kind of like a transitional block, but we're going to keep the loads really light so we don't, spark up any injury, start working on that back tolerance and that time as well, because you will have more time, kind of, how can I say, figure out exactly how much volume you can handle and if there's anything extra we need to work on. And then from there, it's quite just like a linear process where it's like, we're just going to slowly ramp up the loads, reduce the weights, get closer to a 1RM. yeah, that's pretty much the general plan of how it's going to go. And I think the big thing is, like, it's important to have a plan, but it's more important to have flexibility, because anything can happen in your plan. Like, the biggest and hardest thing is, like, we're trying to manage an injury. At any point here, we could accidentally overshoot and it could hurt your back. So if we were to, have too much of a structured plan, we set ourselves up for failure. So that's why right now you have 4 weeks written out. So that's some direction. And then you have the whole 6-month plan. But the reason I don't write a whole 6-month program up front is because I'm expecting changes. I'm expecting changes not just throughout the whole process, but even like day to day. Like, you might just tell me, yo, this, like, you do your Monday session or whatever, and you might be like, hey man, like, my back's really sore. I can't do another session this week. And that's when I have to sit down and adjust the plan. And if I was to write 6 months out, right, it would be a nightmare to
it's a waste
change
of time.
one day and then like a domino effect of changing everything else.
Right.
So yeah. Oh, that's about it.
I will say I was going to agree with that, because definitely need some flexibility. And I'm also flexible on like when I try to peak. So right now we have it kind of planned for August, which is fine. I don't mind pushing that to September, October, if things like, for example, coronavirus, if I'm still not really cutting or working out right now. And I don't have any capacity right now, because even yesterday, walking was getting me winded. So it's like, I was going to try to do squats. I was like, nope, not going to happen today, even light squats. So my goal is, like you said, I want to try to hit a PR and then basically retire. Either 5 RM or a 1 RM. Either one I'm okay with. But 5 RM being a 5 rep max, because that's just generally a little bit safer for me. But in the hands of a coach, I don't mind trying to do a 1 RM. So that's all I had to say about everything you said so far. So what do you want to look at next?
We can look at the actual program if you want. We can like kind of
like this page.
Break. Yeah, this page. So okay, this is just like the layout is just my general program layout, but what I've written is very individual for Tom. There's a lot we can go in. So Tom's a special case because Tom streams and has limited time. So I've got to take into consideration, okay, not only do we want to manage the QL, so we can't have things that load the lower back heaps back to back, but also we're constricting a bit on time. So if you can actually see, it's just based on exercise selection. I've outlined the time he's dedicated for training, but for day 1 and day 2, there's only 3 exercises. And then whereas day 3 and day 4, there's 5. Now,
quick question for you, by the way.
Yes.
I want to, is there an easy way to just slide this up?
Take that out. Yeah.
You know what? I'm just going to find a different way.
I'll do it for you.
There's another way I can. Okay. All right. Thank you. There we go. Yeah. That's going to be easier for me to scroll around and show on stream.
Yeah. Sorry, what was I saying? Okay. So yeah, you have day 1, day 2, 3 exercises only. Day 1, and then day 3, day 4, you have 5. They're also split into like difficulty. So you have your hardest squat day 1. Even though you're limited on time, the reason your hardest squat day is day 1 is because day 4 is your hardest deadlift day. Now, these 2 exercises put a bit of load in your QL, and they're the exercises that you've had like problems within the past. So the reason they're complete opposites in terms of like weekly training is because we just don't want anything to like hurt your QL. Now, the thing as well with the structure here, it's a bit of trial and error because I don't know what's going to flare up your QL. Like, one, I'm not a physio, #disclaimer, but also like I've worked with you for a little bit, but I haven't had your whole training structured before. So for me, when I write this program, okay, I got to pretty much kind of have a guess is like, what is going to be the most manageable? And it's always safe for 1 to be a little bit conservative, and 2, like really take into consideration how much work can you actually get in and avoid like injury at all costs. So the last thing I want to do really is put a pretty hard program from the first month, and then you hurt yourself, and then we're like, shit, we need to replan the whole system again. So I pretty much, it's almost, I have a very conservative shot of what I think is going to work. Plan, keep flexibility, and make sure I'm on top of your training to be able to adjust it to get it to work. What else is there? There's a lot we can get into. It'd probably be easier if you ask questions, and then we can like get into the specifics of it. Okay,
yeah, I was gonna see if you had anything else like you wanted to intro with. Otherwise, I could start poking at some stuff here.
No, so I want you to poke.
All right, okay, sounds good. So, progression. Can you talk a bit about progression? That was a question that actually came up in chat, and that was one of my first questions. So Bob Ross says, is this going to be progressive overload plan or variable overloading?
Okay, so it's all programs need to have a form of progressive overload. It is a training principle. For people who don't know what progressive overload is, it simply is week by week or over time, things get harder. So if things never get harder, or things never go through, like you never use progressive overload or some form of overload, you won't get stronger, you won't make improvements. It's a very kind of evolutionary human thing where, okay, if you're going to do the same thing all the time with no progression, you're not going to, obviously your body's not going to adapt to that stimulus and get stronger. So over time, things need to get harder for your body to be like, oh shit, I don't want to die. I need to do X weight more and more and more. So I must get stronger to lift these things. So yes, like there is obviously progressive overload. I guess one thing you should note is that the loads are relatively light. So we're not trying to, so what I just said, right? You could pretty much take it. Okay, I'm going to max out week 1 and then max out week 2 and just make sure it's a little bit heavier, a little bit heavier, a little bit heavier. But the loads are very conservative. And that's because you don't need to work 100% to get a stimulus or to get an improvement. So like you don't need to max out every time to, get some strength gains. You can kind of work on your, let's say, your 80% range and improve that 80% range, which in turn improves the 100% or your max. So as well, because we're dealing with an injury, I have to be extra conservative just to start with. So right now, like 145 pounds for Tom is pretty light in the scheme of things.
Yeah.
And there is some, if we look week by week, there is some form of progressive over, like things go up 10 pounds, 5 pounds, 5 pounds each week. And the idea is, even if 145 pounds is a joke for Tom, we want him to, it should be enough weight to get a bit of a stimulus, especially because he hasn't been training, he's been sick.
Yeah.
That's all you really need to do to start with. And that's why as well, I took the first week is really, really light to take into consideration that there's so many things that could be happening before this program, because I know what's happening in Tom's life right now, that being extra conservative is always safer. And if we get to week 2 and he's like, man, I'm bored, this is super, super, super easy, my QL is fine, it actually feels better than ever, then I can just bump the loads up.
Yeah.
Did that answer the progressive overload question a little bit?
Yeah, it does. At least to me, it does. Bob Ross, you can follow up if you want. We're for the most part ignoring chat today, but I'll be looking for anything that's relevant that kind of matches what we're talking about. Yeah, I was looking over this, and this is actually quite low on volume and light. A couple of my comments are actually, my Tuesday is going to open up to be longer, so I actually probably could do close to a full hour, 45 minutes to an hour worth of a workout. But let's just start here and then see how we're doing, if I want to add any more volume anywhere. Wednesday, having Wednesday off completely is kind of nice, so I can actually just do some gaming or chill. That is nice to have. Although my front page series is ending, so my Wednesdays aren't that busy anymore. But yeah, so I want to, before I ask for specifics on the choices of exercises and whatnot, I wanted to ask you about deloads. how do you plan on doing deloads throughout this entire process?
Okay, with me, I have a general idea when to deload, or like I have a general plan. Like I would say as this is quite conservative, you probably won't need a deload specifically after this block of training, like after this 4 weeks of training. Just because I know the loads are really light. And the volume's like not super high. It's actually quite low. In terms of deloads, for me, I always talk to my clients or talk to whoever I'm coaching and see how they feel. So there's two things I'll look at. One, if they tell me, yo, Brandon, I feel like shit, I'll be like, okay, we might need to put a deload in here somewhere. But also I can't just rely on that information. So if they're filming their lifts, like let's say a power lifter, they're filming their lifts and I see they're doing a squat that should be easy. And I'm literally looking at the bar and the bar's going up slow, really slow. I'm like, okay, this guy or girl is really fatigued right now. I need to organize the deload. So I usually go off based on that more. But then once again, like if we do 8 weeks of training and I haven't done a deload, but everything is fine, I'll kind of just put a deload in there just for like safety precautions, like just in case, like I want to constantly progress. Maybe things are just going really well. And that could be a reflection on not because I haven't had a deload, but maybe my training's too conservative. So I'll be like, okay, I'll still put a deload in here because we've done a lot of training. And then I'll make this next block a bit harder and see how they go and how they manage.
I was going to say too, I have a tendency to push too hard and push RPE 9, push RPE 10, which for those who don't know, like I'll just define RPE really quick because this will come up. Rate of perceived exertion, basically RPE, like how hard was it? 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10 scale. So RPE 10 means is 10 out of 10 difficult, could do 0 more reps. RPE 9, it was 9 out of 10 difficult, you could have done 1 more rep. RPE 8 means you could have done 2 more reps and so forth. So I tend to tell myself I'm doing RPE 8 or 9, but in reality I'm doing 9 or 10 because I'm not honest with myself. That's, I know, one of my flaws with gauging my own difficulty. So it's good to have a second person look at it. But that being said, I wanted to say what are the things I struggle with? So like this plan is fairly linear right now with how we're just going to be like adding on loads and stuff. I've traditionally started to really struggle around like for let's say squats, high bar squat, like doing, 5x5 of like, let's say 265, 275, that starts to get really hard for me. And I definitely cannot linearly progress. What do you see us doing around that whenever we start hitting that wall? Because right now, these loads are super light, going to be easy. What do we do then?
So, okay. So once again, this is going to sound annoying, but okay. So the loads are really light right now. And it's like, let's see what happens. That's the main thing. It's like, I made it really conservative. So you have time to adapt to the stimulus, adapt to doing 8s. Cause I'm not sure if you've done 8s that much for squats. Am I right?
I mean, yes, a little bit in the past, but recently, no, not since I've been rehabbing things. I kept it at 5, but I used to do 4x8. The closest powerlifting training I ever, or programming I ever did was DUP, squats 3 times a week. And I would do 4x8 for 1 session.
Yeah.
Which is like, fucking cardio, man.
It is. So hopefully by the time we get more into like the meat of the program or like the plan, like let's say 2 months in, let's say, you'll probably be doing things more comfortably at that load. So from there we can like work up. So as you can see on the program, if you bring it up, there's like an RPE slot. So let's say we finish this block and you've literally done RPE 3 for the whole week. I'll be like, okay, that's way too easy. I'll bump it up. But if I start seeing 9s from like the middle of the week, so ideally I'm looking at week 3, week 4, and this is kind of where I'm less flexible and I'm more like, I kind of have like a style. Week 3, week 4, I generally like to push. And then week 1, week 2 is kind of like an easier week. That way it like manages the fatigue a bit better. If I'm looking at, not for this, because this is an intro block's a bit different, but if it was the next block or like the week 5, week 6, week 7, week 8, and things were still really, really easy, I've got to pretty much bump it up by then. Actually, something I wanted to mention too was one of the choices I made of this program. So especially with people like Tom, he's kind of like an advanced trainee. So he has a lot of experience.
Oh, thank you. Shucks.
So the way I can program is quite flexible. I mean, I didn't have to give him prescribed loads, but there's a reason I chose to give him prescribed loads. And it's the fact that I know that he tends to work too hard. So if I tell him, this is what you have to do, even if it's easy from the first week, that is fine. I can then manage his RPE better by just giving him the exact number. There might be some weeks where he feels really good and that RPE or that perceived exertion may be lower than I wanted. Like maybe I'm trying to get like an RPE 9 for 1 week and it's only an RPE 6. That is fine, knowing that because he always works hard, the potential to trigger his injury is increased. So for me to give you prescribed loads and be like, do exactly this, it takes out a variable that I don't have to worry about in terms of managing your QL. That's another reason when you were talking about it before, I wanted to say it before I forgot. That's one of the reasons I've given you prescribed loads for a lot of things that are not as taxing. And when I say taxing, I mean into like not as I guess a compound or like free weight movement, like just general accessory work. You've got a bit more flexibility there, but for the main lifts and things that can trigger your QL and things that really need to be managed, I've given Tom prescribed loads.
Yeah. Okay, good. Now I have some questions, some specifics on particular exercise choices. So I've highlighted the ones in red that I have questions on. I mean, pretty much everything else makes sense. I like it. I like what you have put here, but dumbbell, Romanian deadlift, and paused box squat.
Yes.
I want to talk about those. So why did you choose, like, let's go with dumbbell, Romanian deadlift. Welcome everyone who's here. We got a raid. We're in the middle of an interview with Brandon, !Brandon. So we're going over the plan that he gave for me. He's my powerlifting coach. So why choose dumbbell Romanian deadlifts over traditional barbell deadlifts? What was going through your mind for this?
So first off, you already have 2 deadlifts within the week. Just based on experience, I know even like really, really elite lifters and the nature of a deadlifts are super, super taxing. So having more than 2 deadlifts a week can generally cause some issues. And once again, because of your QL pain, that's something I rather not risk. It's having extreme deadlift volume. So the dumbbell Romanian deadlifts are there not as a deadlift, but more just as a hip hinge accessory. A hip hinge accessory being like something that targets the glutes, the hamstrings specifically. Because you're training at a home gym, that's also an area that is hard to load. It's something people would struggle to do at home.
Yeah.
There's like machines you can use and like there's like back extensions and all these kind of stuff you can do. But with the equipment you have, that is limited. Yep. So the idea was for the dumbbell Romanian deadlifts, when I was writing it down, I'm like, okay, I want a hip hinge accessory that he can do with equipment at home. And what's something that will also help him, was not going to load his QL too much, but also help him improve his hinge pattern. So that's where I've come with dumbbell Romanian deadlifts. And we'll kind of see how that goes. If you're not happy with it or not enjoying it, it's one of the choices that is very flexible. I just want a hinge accessory pretty much.
Got it. Slot. What do you think about kettlebell swings as a hinge accessory? Too fast? I mean, does it match enough to a regular deadlift?
It's not bad. It's still definitely, obviously you go through hip hinge. It is an accessory. It's just less specific to powerlifting. Like that's where it's coming away from the actual deadlift. Does that make
that makes complete sense? Yep. Okay. Specificity matters. It's kind of like playing ping pong versus playing tennis. They're kind of similar, but they don't transfer to each other one to one. If you want to get better at tennis, play tennis, not ping pong. But go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay.
Oh, it's for you.
Okay. What I was going to say is for accessories, they don't need to be super, super specific, but just for this current phase, like I just really want you to improve your hinging, and I wanted an accessory that was somewhat close. So I wouldn't mind if it was kettlebell swings, because the actual role of that that exercise isn't that important really in the scheme of things. You're already doing 2 deadlift days. You're already doing, you know, heaps of other stuff. But yeah, I just felt like based on the equipment you had and all that kind of stuff, that dumbbell Romanian deadlifts will probably work well for now. And then we can adjust it down the line if we're not happy with it.
One of my issues with dumbbell Romanian deadlifts is my dumbbells get awkward when it gets heavy because of how I put the plates on there. I can be creative about this and try to figure out a way to make this work. So it's not because basically with my dumbbell handles, let me just grab one. They can get a little bit awkward depending on the plates that I'm using. So because the plates can be kind of thick and rest close, they might end up like scraping my thighs depending on what I'm using. This is a technical issue that I can work around. That's why I'm kind of curious about this. And so the easier, if this becomes a problem, for me, the best workarounds would be either lighter dumbbell Romanian deadlifts, like a single leg, perhaps. I don't know if you'd find value in that. I'd be okay with that as well. Trying it out anyway. Or switching to barbell, just so that way that chafing issue gets out of the way. But we could start with dumbbell Romanian DLs to see how they go.
Yeah, I'll probably prefer them to be actually single legged. But for now, I just wanted to, because something you actually put in your, how do you explain it? What is it? Your pre-screening?
Yep.
Sorry,
yeah,
mind blank there.
Yeah.
Something that you outline your pre-screening is that you didn't like single leg work because it can cause you some issues and cause you some pain.
Correct.
And as well, for your accessories, just like you wouldn't have known this, but like I usually tell my clients, like there is a prescribed RPE there for your accessories. And if you notice, like if you're going to do 12 reps at an RPE 6, the load shouldn't be that heavy.
True.
So like in terms of logistics, the dumbbell shouldn't get that heavy. If we want to move it to a single leg down the line, that is also, I would actually prefer that, to be honest, because I think you do need some unilateral being single legged work or single joint. Sorry, single
limb. Yeah. It's okay. Yeah. It's like 5 a.m. where you are in Australia right now. So thinking it could be hard this early.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. Do you want to go to talk about the paw squat? Or
I think I'm happy with that. And yeah, I did mention like unilateral stuff for legs. I try to avoid. However, I'm willing to, like, for very light loads, I'm willing to try it out, but we can stick with regular dumbbell Romanian deadlifts for now.
Yeah.
But yeah, for those who don't know, I have past injuries to which single leg unilateral work can be risky, but I'm willing to try to push the limits a little bit on that. Okay, paused box squats. I'm personally not a fan of box squats in general. I just would rather go to regular pause squats, and I was curious on your thoughts about this.
Okay. There's like different kind of pause squats or box squats? Which one do you like, the box part or the pause part?
I don't like box parts. I'm fine with pause parts.
Okay, cool. So the reason I've given you box squats, so I think traditionally there's like 2 kinds of ways people do box squats. Some people literally, when they go do it, they go squat down and then they kind of sit back and put all their weight on the box. Whereas, which is fine. And it depends on why you're doing it. But the way I want you to do it is not to put all your weight and sit in the box. It's literally just an indication like when to stop or when the depth is. So I've actually written underneath a soft touch, kind of meaning that when you go down and pause, you're not going to be putting all your weight on the box. It's kind of just there as an indicator. The reason I've done that is because I see sometimes I want to work a little bit on getting your squats a little bit more range. But in doing that, we then increase the risk of like hurting the QL. So I was like, okay, I want to do a pause squat so that he can work in his brace, work in his balance in the hole specifically. So that's why it's got the pause. In that part of the squat, a lot of people tend to lose their brace, lose their balance, lose their back tightness. And when you lose those things that are the stability of the squat, your injury risk is higher, and hence Tom has his QL problems. Working on a pause squat that's light can help him, teach him how to stay tighter, more balanced in the hole. And then doing it to a box, it eases that even more because you kind of can put a bit of your weight on the box. but also it helps work on his depth because he tends to squat a little bit shallow. And I would like to, over time, increase the range of motion of his squat so that he can work more muscle. The more range you go through, the more load of the musculature you can work. For example, if you're doing a bicep curl and you're only going to like there, obviously you're not going to work as much as your bicep. Whereas if you can go full range, you're going to get more of a contraction. So something that I would like to develop over time, and while the load's light and while we're in a technique phase, is something I would like to work on. And that's why as well, I wrote just below parallel for the box. That's the idea. Hopefully you have something.
Yeah, I was about to say, so equipment wise, I don't have good equipment for pause squats. However, I do have this chair that's soft. I want to get your opinion on it. So ignore the lumbar support pillow. Let me take this off. So this is a generic chair. And if I sit on it, so you can see, like, because of my knee angle, I'm basically to parallel. So this is a good height. Yeah. But it's a little bit soft. Do you have any concerns about this, or do you think this would be fine? I could use this for the squats.
It should be, as I said, it's just an indication. So you're not actually going to be fully sitting down on the on this chair. It's just going to be like, I just want you to be like, oh, my ass is touching the chair.
Oh, it tickles my butt, and then get back up. Man. Yeah. So what I'm looking for is, while I'm sitting, as soon as I feel that contact, I'm trying to put as little load on that chair as possible. Is that what I'm trying to do, or do I actually sit?
Yeah, like you want to put as not as little, but like you shouldn't be sitting down on the chair. It should just be an indication. It should be a touch. It should just be like, oh, tickle my butt. Okay, I'm coming up. Or like I'm pausing and then I'm coming up.
So when I hear the pause, like I'm trying to understand.
Yes.
Do I stop and actually put like stop my momentum completely by letting the chair absorb my momentum? Or do I stop them? Okay. So I don't let the chair assist me, really. I'm almost like hovering.
Literally letting the chair, you're letting it tickle your bum, and you sit there and let it tickle, and then you come up.
Okay. Well, the sit down part is where, like, in my head, it shifts to I am actually resting for like even a quarter second of the entire load being on there. But what I'm hearing is I should not basically lose any core brace. I should not really transfer any load to the chair. So
it's just a range indicator. That's it.
Got it. Okay. Good. And then the next question that I have is about relative loads. Take, for example, the high bar squat, 3x8, 145. I know you left RPE off, but like say 3x8, 145. Pause squat, squat, 3x5, 135. To me, even at 5 reps, that load is only slightly lighter, and the pause part to me makes it much harder. I was curious on the load selection for that. Pause squat, pause deadlift as well. So deadlift is 3x5, 165. Oh, let me scroll down a little bit. 3x5, 165, right? But then for the pause or tempo deadlift, which makes it, in my opinion, much harder, it's 155, only 10 pounds lighter. Of course, yes, only 2 reps. I was curious on your load selection there, and if you feel like, should one be a lot lighter or heavier than the other? It's just that's already accounted for in just the decreased volume.
Okay, so we can get really deep into this question.
Yeah, let's do it.
The simple answer to this is, for this block of training, because the loads are already light, the lighter day or the more technique day or the alternative squat and deadlift day, the difference between those 2 days don't need to be that much because they're already really light. So I suspect it won't be an issue. But like, let's say in the future, you're going to push your high bar squats to a higher RPE or really difficult set. Like, let's say you're going to do 265 for 5 on your high bar squat. I then know, okay, that day one, let's just say it was 265 for 5 reps. I would be like, okay, that's going to be pretty hard. That's going to be pretty taxing. The second squat day is going to have to be a lot lighter to manage that. But because of the current block of training and how it is fairly light and fairly easy, that variance won't need to be that much. That difference won't need to be that big. As well, Something to be aware of. You're doing 8 reps for the normal high bar squat, where you're only doing 5 reps for the pause box squat. So there is not only is the load a little bit lighter, but the reps are a little bit different too. Because there is a box, and like I did say, yeah, you want to touch it softly and you should put all your weight on it. It does take a little bit of the load off that too as well. Yeah, that's the main thing, is like there's already some differences, and as we get heavier and harder, the harder days will get harder and the lighter days will get pretty much lighter relative.
Okay. Sounds good. The other question I had is about just bulking in general. So I'm at 10, 12% ish body fat right now, probably 12. I'm okay to stop cutting and just go straight into bulking. This is up to you. Yeah, bulk forever, forever bulk, powerlifting way. So I'm curious about how much bulking I should be doing, how fast I should be going, and in the big picture, just how much bulking I want to do. I want to stop at like 215 pounds max. So I'm 6 feet tall right now, 175. I don't want to bulk past 215 because I'll probably hit about 20% body fat around then. And kilos, someone do the conversion for me, please. That's 183 centimeters, but I don't know the weight in kilos. I think that's close to 100 kilos, probably like 97 or something kilos. So
when I was writing a program, because I'm so used to working with kilos a lot, I just had the Google converter next to me, and I just like constantly copy and pasting like the converter, be like, wait, I don't get this. What does this mean? What does 135 mean?
yeah, dude, that's so funny because hey, you're gonna become really good at converting now, hopefully, for
fingers crossed.
for kilos and pounds, at least ballparking estimates. But anyway, so curious on what rate of bulking do you suggest? How much bulking do you think I need to do? Should I even start bulking right now since these loads are so light?
Okay, so just disclaimer for you guys in chat, this is specifically for Tom. So with strength training, ideally, we would want to be in a caloric surplus majority of the time. The reason being, the focus is more on performance, and having an excess amount of energy is going to make it easier to execute and better and funner. And the focus is less on body comp and more on let's have fuel for training. One. Second reason is that ideally we want to be putting a bit of muscle on throughout our program. Like we have 6 months. That's a lot of time. Yeah. And that's enough time to actually develop some muscle and put some muscle mass on. When you're doing strength training, your focus might not be on putting muscle on, but the byproduct or the second thing is to put muscle on, because more muscle means you move more weight. So ideally, we want to be in a surplus for as long as we can within the 6 months. For Tom specifically, I know he'll be fine with his nutrition, so I'm not going to really manage it like at all. But what I would say to you is that we want to be in a surplus as long as we can. I don't really want at any point to be in a deficit. If you want to like manage your weight and like cap yourself at a certain point, that is fine. Ideally, don't put yourself into such a massive caloric surplus. Like let's slowly build into that weight, just so we are fueled for training, because that's the primary goal. So I don't want a point where like we're going to peak, we're about to do testing, and now you're chubby Tom, and chubby Tom's sad about how he looks. Like I don't want to be at that point. Like I just want to be like, let's just fuel training, get our 1 RMs. Like that's the goal. Right. We should focus on that.
And I think my sadness about how I look would peak at 215. Also, things just get uncomfortable. Like my thighs are chafing everywhere. I fucking hate it. So, and based on what you're saying, 6 months, I did some quick math on that. If I were to go from 175 to 215 in 6 months, that's approximately 1.5 pounds of weight gained per week, which to me, that's too much. I'm not going to gain that much, but I'm just saying if I wanted to max out there as fast as I could. So if there's no guidance on your end, I'm just going to do 0.5 pound to 1 pound per week. But specifically in the initial month or two, I would be a lot slower with that and keep it to just 0.5 pound or barely a surplus, and then start ramping up as things actually get harder.
Yeah, that's pretty logical. I would say though, for the first block, I think you can probably get away with just being a bit more chill and like being more towards maintenance. But especially while the like the volume is higher, because the volume obviously will be reduced as we get closer to maxing. You're more suited towards hypertrophy in those kind of timeframes. So
good point.
Being in a surplus becomes more important then, because you can kind of utilize your training, like do your training better, especially in that kind of transitional phase where it's going to be a bit of like hypertrophy and strength. By then we're kind of settled in, and but the volume is going to be still quite high. So we want to use that volume well and put muscle on in that time, because again, the more muscle you have, the more potential for strength.
Yeah. All right. Good points. In that case, you're right. I think just for April, I'll start transitioning, and then May and June, I'll just fucking pack it on, a pound a week.
Yes, let's go,
let's do
man.
it. Let's do it, man. I'm gonna be a power lifter now, Mom.
Next time you stream, like in that time, you're gonna bring SBD shirt, you have your knee sleeves on, your belt, your wraps.
Actually, now that you mentioned that, let's talk about accessories really quick. Knee sleeves. Yeah. Should I just use knee sleeves when I feel like I need to? Lighter squats like these, I don't feel like I need them. When we start hitting like closer to like, 225 or 2 plates, 100 kilos, I'll try to do the math for you, because I know you don't have your calculator on you. So like 100 kilos ish squat, I feel like the knee sleeves benefit me. What do you think?
Honestly, just comfort. It's not a big deal. Like, you're not doing a competition.
Right.
Like, if you were doing a comp and like we're prepping for a comp, and okay, you're going to use knee sleeves for the comp, we'll be specific and we'll be like, hey, let's just use knee sleeves the whole time. We're only going to do a comp in 6 months or whatever. One comp, you might as well practice. But I'm not too fast. It's more just comfort. Like, at the end of the day, there's like, the more things we add and the more non-negotiables we put in, the less likely they're going to be adhered to. So like, I rather just focus on a few set things and do them really fucking well. So with accessories for you specifically, I don't mind. Just go nuts. I think when we start getting heavier though, you will obviously find more comfort having knee sleeves on. The one accessory equipment that I rather manage is belt.
I was about to ask about that. Let's talk about the belt.
Yeah. So belt, because, so if you put your belt on really, really tight, and that's the only thing you do, it's hard to learn how to brace well or create like intra-abdominal pressure, which is pretty much put simply, you want to make the squishy part, your tummy, like a bone when you're squatting. There's nothing to keep you stable here. You want to be able to get as much air, as much pressure into your stomach region to make it like a bone. Now, if you wear a belt all the time, not sometimes, but generally, it's harder to learn that bracing mechanic. And it's a lot easier to learn when you don't have like something to assist you. So that's the only thing that I do, rather you not use the belt to begin with. But if the belt helps manage the QL, which is a priority, and that's probably going to be more important. But then again, one of the reasons that you have QL issues is, I believe, is that you're not as efficient in bracing. So if we were to implement a belt now, we're going to get away from getting our bracing mechanics better. Hence why the loads are really light. So you shouldn't need a belt anyway. Sure. That's the only one equipment that I kind of tell my clients, and will tell you as well, when to put it on. Okay. For that reason. All right. That makes sense?
Yes, it does.
Simple?
Yeah, it does. I felt like my bracing mechanics were fine, but then you've made the comments about that it might be related to my QL. So fair enough. We can not do the belt for the time being. And you're right. The loads are light enough that I don't feel like I need it. So
we can talk about how to use the belt properly as well. There's a lot we can go into.
If it's something that we've already talked about, okay, so you know what? I'll just explain for the belt, and then you fill in any knowledge gaps.
Yeah.
If you feel like I'm saying something incorrect or something that specifically is actually contributing to my QL, because I pretty much agree with everything you said. So for the belt, basically, you don't want it too tight. Without bracing right now, I can still get in my fingers and hand here. If I do brace, I can still wedge it in there if I try, but it actually feels a little bit loose on me right now, because it's a lever belt, so I'm actually between notches right now. But basically, with the belt, we should be taking a deep belly breath and then pushing down and out to where we're pressing against it and creating intra-abdominal pressure in all directions to basically create more stability. And the belt shouldn't be so tight that it's impacting your ability to actually perform and get in position. That's my quick TLDR on belts. Besides the other things you said, but what do you think?
Yeah, that's exactly. I'm on the same boat as you. I think one thing just to add, so people know, is that the reason people can lift more with a belt is because, yes, it makes you more stable, as Tom said. And stability, the more stable you are, the easier it is to express strength. I think I used this analogy with Tom before. It was, if you were to shoot a cannon on a boat, the cannon is not going to be very accurate and not going to be very strong. Whereas if you put the cannon on the floor on like a firm piece of ground and shot and then shot the cannon, it would be more accurate and stronger. So like, it's kind of similar. It's like we want to, the things that we're working on, generally we want to create more stability because it's easier to express strength. The more stable you are, the easier it is to really like go. And the evidence for that, if you want some anecdotal for yourself, like do a squat and then go onto a leg press and then max out your leg press. You'll find that just lying down, being on a machine rather than free weighted, is easier for you to kind of use your quads, use your legs and push more weight. So ideally, what we're trying to create when we're powerlifting is we want to make it like a machine, like you're on a machine equipment. Like you want to have your like big brace or back really tight, really balanced, just like you'd be on any machine. And that way, when you go to squat, you can express all your strength in your legs and there's like no power leakage and it's not going anywhere else. That's kind of to add onto the belt. The reason why people find belts help a lot is because the squishy part where there's no bone is right here, and you have tight and creating pressure down there is obviously going to increase your stability and hence increase your strength. Yeah,
good stuff. Good explanation. All right, we're gonna move on to the next part because I think that's pretty much all I did. Actually, warm-ups. I forgot about warm-ups. You had a section for warm-ups.
Yep. Okay.
Did you want to talk about this briefly?
Yeah. So I give this to all my clients. It's actually just it's an interactive warm-up guide. Now, if you have injuries or have things you need to do before training, you should do that before doing barbell warm-ups, obviously. Yep. But it's just something simple to, if you're like, oh, I don't know what barbell warm-ups to do. So for example, like if you're doing 145 pound squat, like you'll do some warm-up sets that are a lot lighter before doing that 145 pounds, just so you're warm, you practice your movement, you practice your groove, so your technique is good when you're doing the difficult task. So this guide here is actually interactive. So if you just, like, let's say, because if you do the first column in the warm-up guide where it says load, if you just type the load in, if you just change that to, I don't know, any number, it will tell you a rough idea of what I would recommend generally to warm up with. I know it's in kilos.
Yeah, I know, but whatever. I'll change it to freedom pounds in my head. I just assume they're pounds, right? Oh, no. Well, is the math the same if you do it in pounds?
It should be. If you just do a converter, it's just percentages. So it should be the same. The main thing about barbell warm-ups, we want to, as I said, practice the groove, practice your technique, get warm, but not make it too tiring and too taxing that it takes away from your main work. So that's where it's balanced. If you actually look at the warm-up guide, the reps as you get closer to your working set go down, but the weight increases and gets closer to the warm-up. Sorry, to the working weight. So your warm-up should, if it's not followed by this guide, for example, it should be something similar where as you're getting closer to the working loads, your reps should be coming down so it doesn't fatigue you, but you should also feel like you're getting warm and you're getting better as you're approaching a working set. So by the time it's working set time, you're at 100%, you're ready to go, but you're not tired.
Yeah.
That's the main thing for barbell warm-ups. But yeah, that's what that section is. It's like some people would rather have something to tell you exactly what to do, but it's just a guide. Like it's not something that I'm like, you have to use this. It's just like, if you want a rough idea what to do, I have this for my clients to use.
So to give you an idea for like bench press, if I were to do a bench press warm up, it would be a little bit closer to your 1 to 3 reps style, but I'd actually probably throw in more just plain barbell warm up reps. If I was doing like 225 pounds, which is like 100 kilos, I would do more reps of the empty bar and probably one additional rep at 225, just because.
Well, you can see as well. Yeah, no, you finish first. It's more important.
Just because I feel like I need to hit that, to prime my CNS, I need to hit that working weight with 1 rep or so. But anyway, go ahead.
On the warm-up guide, if you actually go back to it, you can see, so there's different columns. So it's like for the higher reps. So generally with higher reps, obviously you're going to be doing like a lighter load. But when we look at the reps 1 to 3, you may feel like you need a bit more warm-up because like that's going to be hard or like whatever. That's why there is an option B there to do 5 warm-ups.
Yeah.
Now, in general terms, you don't have to do 4 warm-ups. You don't have to do 5 warm-ups. At the end of the day, it's how you feel. But you also got to be aware is that we don't want to be fatigued by the time we go in there. Like we want to be feeling fresh. So it should be efficient. We don't want to do like too much work in the warm-up because the goal, especially as a coach, when you write a program down, like that's something I'm not tracking. Like I'm not tracking how much work he's doing in his warm-up. I'm just assuming that he's doing enough warm-up to feel good, but not taxing himself. And again, it's something you don't really need to manage as much as a coach, because let's say you are feeling really tired at the like end of your block, and like I don't know why that is. Like it looks really easy. You're always going to do the same kind of warm-ups all the time. So me changing the variables within the actual program, as long as the warm-up stays consistent, I don't have to contribute the higher fatigue to the warm-up. So yeah, that's about it.
Okay. Sounds good. Now I'm going to move on to just my general questions for you, and then we'll be wrapping up soon. So powerlifting, coaches, stuff like that, just coaches in general, who should seek a coach? Who should not seek a coach?
Okay. My general philosophy with a lot of things is that in life, people focus on certain things, and people are professional for a reason. There's only so much time people can have in their lives to do things, right? So the whole reason society works really is that people pick something to niche at. They spend time in getting good at that skill, and then people exchange money for that person to get that person's kind of professional help. So like what I'm kind of trying to say is that if you're someone who you're really busy and you don't have time to learn all these intricate things about training, and you just want to literally go and train, having a coach can help a heap for that. A thing I would like to mention though, with there's a difference between coaching and personal training. Now, a PT is there more as, I guess, I see my view on it is more a support, more as kind of like motivation. Whereas a coach is there to guide. Like it's a guide, it's someone to guide your training and work with you as a team. Like and like a good way to explain that, I think a lot of people think when I tell them I'm a powerlifting coach, like they obviously think PT, which is fairly accurate. It's very similar. But like the reason I say I'm a coach, because I see myself more as like a football coach for powerlifters or for athletes. It's like the coach is not there to like, yeah, he has some role in motivating you, but I rather motivate you through the process and through something that you can adhere to, and teaching you things and getting to understand stuff more to make you a better athlete, rather than like just be like, you do this and you do this hard. Like that's where I feel like it becomes more PT. Whereas a coach is like, I'm teaching you, I'm guiding you in the right direction. I'm working with your character. I'm working with things you enjoy. I'm trying to make it sustainable. I'm like, the coach ideally is an intervention into a problem. So like you hire a coach because you have a problem, you haven't been able to fix it, and you need someone to help you fix that issue. And a coach should be able to, what I've done with Tom is like sit down, talk to the client, be like, hey, you've had X issue. Let's work out why that's not working. And then let's work as a team to fix that problem. So I think a coach, there's a lot of other things, like other reasons why you should have a coach and like the value in having a coach. But I think the main thing is like a coach should be almost, it's like a team. And it's someone where like I have obviously a bit more knowledge in the powerlifting area or in the strength training area. So rather than you go out and like waste your time with all the misinformation out there and all that kind of stuff, have someone there to help you. And if you're still interested, like you want to put time into learning those kind of things, you have someone there to make sure you're not being misinformed, or to chat or to discuss about things you've learned. Again, that's why I like to work as a team and educate more as a coach rather than as a personal trainer, because I really like people to not only helps me improve as a coach, like to ask me questions and ask me things that they've read on the internet. It makes me better, but also makes you better having someone else's opinion that you can trust. I think that was a
yeah. But
that
what
kind of
about
answer.
What about people who should not be seeking a coach? Who should?
I've got a bit of a bias. I like obviously like I'm obviously a powerlifting coach. Oh my god, he wants to take all everyone's money. Like he wants to earn a big coach. No, it's not like that. Like I do
money stealer. Sorry, go ahead.
I have a powerlifting coach. Tom, I'm coaching Tom. Yeah. Like there is value in having a coach. Doesn't matter how smart you are. As I said, being able to have someone manage your training, which is really easy, keep you accountable, and you can discuss and make yourself better and more knowledgeable by like, you know, talking to each other and talking about information and all that kind of stuff. There's so much value in it. I would say that the only time you shouldn't have a coach is like if you guys conflict or you guys don't get along. Don't force yourself to stay with that coach. Like it should be like, I was listening to an MMA coach talk about it. It's like, he likes to create friendships with his clients. And I'm kind of the same. Like, I want to get to know the person. I want to become your friend. If we don't click, no hard feelings. Like we're just not the right fit for each other. There's other people out there. So to kind of answer your question is like, I think majority of people should have coaches, and not just for training, like for across the board, like for everything, for mental health, all those kind of things. I think there's people out there with lots of knowledge and experience that you should utilize in the world. Like there's only so much you can do. And that's just the reality. There's only so much you can learn. Take advantage of people being obsessed with weird shit. Like get to know them, learn from them, all that kind of stuff. It will save you so much time. And like time is money. You know what I mean? You don't want to be wasting all this. If you have a family, you already have a profession, you have other hobbies, and you want to get training, it's going to make more sense to pay someone to help assist in that process rather than spending all this time and effort in trying to almost do a bit of guesswork. And as well with specifically for the fitness industry, there's so much misinformation out there that it can be really daunting doing it by yourself. Like it just helps having someone there be like, hey man, that's fucking bullshit. Don't listen to that.
So what about advanced people like yourself? Like a lot of really advanced powerlifting coaches, they have coaches. Did you want to touch on that about like why coaches have coaches?
I think when you're training yourself, doesn't matter the level, you're always going to have a bias, and it's really hard to get away from that bias. Yeah. Like, for example, I might wake up one day and I feel like shit. And like, I don't need to be motivated. I'm going to train. But like, if I have an exercise and I've written down, let's just say dumbbell bench press, and I don't feel like doing dumbbell bench press today, if it's not my program, I'm not going to do it. Like I can't be asked. Like, and I know as well, because I know better other substitutes. There's more, I give myself reasons not to do that exercise. So having someone else manage your training, it keeps you really accountable for one. And also I'm writing programs all day. The last person I want to try think objectively for is myself, because it's so hard to objectively think for yourself. And that's just the reality. So having someone else just manage your training, as I said, it's not just like, there's other reasons to have a coach outside of just someone to tell you what to do. That's one aspect of it. So yeah, that's why I see value in having coach for myself. Also for myself too, if you are an advanced trainee, it's a good way to test your knowledge and see what other people are doing, because coaching is kind of like an art, and there's definitely people have their own different methods and bias to like different principles, and being able to work with someone and see how they apply their principles and like the way they choose to apply the principles is really interesting. So like I said, even if you're really smart, I would definitely recommend like having a coach. There's just so much value.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that too. Like everyone can be taught, everyone can learn something new. So I always thought about getting a coach, but I just couldn't find the right match until I met Brandon. And then it's like a match made in heaven. Oh. And then so my next question I want to ask is what are some of your go-to techniques for increasing strength and volume for a beginner, intermediate, and an advanced lifter? Now, what I mean specifically is they're not competing. They're just a general person who wants to build some muscle, get a little bit stronger. The different stages: beginner, intermediate, advanced. What are some of your go-to techniques to increase that stuff?
I hate being this person. There's not really any go-to techniques. Like that's not kind of how it works. It's the wrong way to look at it. But there's definitely common issues that I'll see all the time. So it's technique is very individual dependent. I have kind of put it this way. I have like a set idea of what I want to do. But then it comes down to actual practice and it comes down to the actual person. And that is dependent on lever lengths or like limb lengths, or I don't know, a simpler way to put it, but like the length of your limbs, your height, your weight, your size, all that has an effect on your technique. So that's why I can't really say what's the go-to thing technique. There's kind of, I have like an idea of what things should look like and how things should work and how the movement should look. But then it has to come down to like what actually happens in practice. I will say though, a go-to thing for your technique is you want to, again, create more stability, because that way you can increase your strength. That's the idea. Be as stable and as efficient as possible so that there's no power leakage, so that you don't hurt certain things and you can lift more weight. So my go-to is always stability, I guess, but that's a very broad thing. Like it's very individual. Like the technique part is super, super individual. Like that's like, you can get strong off kind of any generic program. You might get hurt, or it might not work as well as you wanted, but the program you can get away with less flexibility. Whereas technique, you got to be quite accurate and specific for yourself, because that will make probably more difference in how much you squat in the beginning phases anyway. I think once you become, especially as well over time, even if you have, this kind of contradicts my point, but even if you have bad technique, if it doesn't hurt you, you can actually get pretty strong with that bad technique too. But the reason I say that is because you want to be doing the same kind of movement pattern over time. If your technique constantly changes, you never allow your body to adapt to that certain movement pattern. I've seen people with really, really horrible technique lift really high loads. So then I don't know if it is then horrible, and not hurt themselves. So that is also fine. And that goes to my point in, it's hard to tell you what's exactly the right technique when you can on paper have bad technique, but if you lift more than me and beat me in a competition, who's actually got better technique, or who's actually doing better? The person with the bad technique is doing better than me. That's good. That's another way to look at it as well.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to ask you one more question, and we'll get a chance for you to talk about yourself, shout yourself out. If you guys have questions that are specific to both of us, feel free to ask it now in chat. Otherwise, we're going to get ready to raid Brandon after this. And then you guys can just go to him for form checks, ask him questions specifically. He's going to be live. We're going to be ending soon. So my last question for you, Brandon, any favorite PT or recovery tools?
PT or recovery tools?
Like, for example,
sleep.
Oh, sleep. That's a good one.
Like legit, like keep it simple. Like I think a lot of people, especially beginners, just get really concentrated on these small things. And like people are very interested in short-term fixes. Like they think there's something out there that's going to be better than sleep. You know, what the fuck is it? I need to know what it is. Honestly, if you just manage your sleep and put the effort in trying to manage your sleep rather than finding the magic pill, you will find a lot better results in your recovery. Also program structure too. But I mean, if you're looking for the one thing to help, like seriously, just sleep. Like,
so let me ask you,
high quality sleep.
How much sleep are we talking about? Like, how much sleep do you get? And what about most people you coach? Like, how much sleep do they need, you know, during training, off training, anything like that?
Okay. So this is something I'm actually not as knowledgeable in. So I'll have to say, like, I have a general idea, but I don't know the actual details of it. So I'm not as confident into like giving like a true opinion, but I think the best way to look at it, like, be logical. Like, if you're having 6 hours sleep and you're saying you're feeling fine, but you know you're not feeling great, and then you go to train and you're training shit, and there's like other objective factors that are poor, and like you're not happy, all those kind of things, then you're probably not getting much sleep. And like the general advice is around 8 hours of sleep a day. That's the general like health advice. There's, with most things, there's obviously some variance to that. Like, there's going to be some people out there who legit could get away from 6 hours sleep, but like they're probably the extreme outliers. Like, the chance it's you is so unlikely. So I would always just say, just go by what the health professionals guide, which is like 8 hours a day.
I was more curious about your coaching experience. If you noticed that powerlifters, elite powerlifters, or all the people you coach really do need more sleep. Like, they can't get away on 7. You notice, like, you personally, you do 9 to 10, or like most people you coach, they need 9 to 10. Anything like that from your experience?
Yeah, I've had a couple clients who, like, I've literally just told them, man, all you need to do is manage your time better and get more sleep. It comes down to the person again. Like, I'll give you an example. So this lifter's a female lifter, and like, I knew she went through a breakup recently with her boyfriend. So like, I was obviously managing training, and we had like maybe 6 months where she just fucking killed it while she was with her boyfriend. And then after that, things started going to shit, like absolute shit. And one of the simple things is like, that's when I was like, okay, I had a chat with her. I'm like, yo, what's happening? Like, training is going so good. You want to just like have a chat and just talk about what's going on? And like, she just pretty much, really stressed and like all these kind of things. And not only was she super stressed, but the result of all that stress was that she wasn't getting much sleep. And that definitely had an effect on her training. Like, her performance went way down. She was kind of like progressing really linearly, and then there was this massive drop. So that was something that I noticed and picked up on, and then I was like, okay, there must be a problem. If you are getting stronger and your life is good and everything is managed really well, even if you're not getting 8 hours sleep, there's some people who literally just like, realistically, they might not have the exact time to get the full 8 hours sleep. Like, I've trained people who are like CEOs of companies and all that kind of stuff. And you kind of just got to work with what time they have. Like, again, sleep is super, super important and will help your training. But also, people in reality, training is not a priority. Like, it is something down the priority list. Like, they might want to get better, but it's not something that they want to be the best powerlifter ever. Like, they just have fun lifting. As I said, I would always recommend more sleep. But like, if they're super, super busy, like, we just got to work with what we got.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with what you said.
Does that answer the question?
Absolutely.
I don't know if...
Yeah. So, all right. I don't see any questions in particular in chat. So we're just going to finish this off with Brandon. Tell us where people can find you. And are you up to anything exciting or anything new coming up?
Okay, you can just on Instagram, you can find me at Coach Bundun. I do stream on Twitch, but not that often. Just up there. Wait.
Right there. There we go.
I don't stream on Twitch that often. So if you are interested in anything or you want to chat, just DM me on Instagram. If you want to whisper me on Twitch as well, like, feel free. I'm pretty chill. I'm not the busiest person in the world. So when I have time, I can get back to you. But mainly just Instagram. In terms of exciting things, obviously we're starting the 5PH with Tom. So that's pretty cool. I'm very keen with that. Did you want to talk about that at all on stream?
Sure. Yeah, I'll talk about it briefly. I've talked about it to my audience, but for people who are interested, !coaching. There's a Google form you type !coaching in the chat room. Type out or fill out the Google form. Just put your email address if you're interested. 5PH coaching is something we're going to test out. It's 5 pillars of health. The 5 pillars of health being sleep. We talked about that one. Nutrition, exercise, and mental health, as well as community. So this group coaching direction that we're trying out is going to be less focused on the one-on-one micromanaging someone's plan, but much more like doing group sessions on a weekly basis to kind of do accountability and see what people are struggling with and really like deep dive those issues. So that's going to be more the focus of this coach. We're going to try to do something new that is not being done a whole lot, because like a lot of traditional coaching is very much like what Brandon's described, right? Where you get a plan, let's see how your lift's doing, and let's kind of like go over those week by week. Although will do some of that stuff, but yeah, that's pretty much it. So, Brandon, any other thoughts or questions?
Quickly to add on to that, my anecdote I did with my female client, it's actually something I wish I tried really hard to recommend to her, was that the problem wasn't the coach. The problem wasn't like my programming. There wasn't much I could actually do to help her anymore. But the thing that she would really need was to see, like, not just to see a psychologist, but just have someone to speak to properly, and like someone who's more knowledgeable in that mental health area to work with, because that was affecting her training. The problem wasn't like she's not informed well, or she's not doing the stuff properly. She was doing everything properly. She just had this big thing weighing her down. So I think there's so much value in that service, is that, man, just having someone to talk to, and someone who is knowledgeable in their certain area, like it just would help so much. And like if we had this thing running already, ideally I would have just referred her to like, hey, how about you just come to these like sessions, have a chat, and like I think that's going to help you the most right now, because right now it's not the training or your commitment to training that's a problem. There's an underlying issue there that we need to start working on. So yeah, just to touch onto the 5pH stuff, it's really exciting because I've already seen, like, even with my clients, there's been areas that I can't personally help because I just don't have all the skills to help that person. Whereas with this 5pH stuff, like having that team is going to be so sick. And like, I'm even excited for myself to learn from Sahil and also from Tom. I'm definitely going to be going in and listening. You know what? I'll probably have a bit of like some mental health sessions with Sahil, you know, like just speak my mind, and it'll definitely help so much.
No, actually, I did something that with Sahil like a week ago. I was a bit stressed out, and I had a quick one-on-one session with him, just talking it out. It's very helpful, whether you get therapy, whether you just talk to a friend. I mean, in some ways, talking to a friend is therapy. Whether you're just doing meditation, all that kind of stuff. I think all that stuff for mental health is huge, because my quick advice on mental health is if something is chronically bothering you, you should do something about that. Like, it's not just a one-time thing. We all have bad days, but like it's a chronic issue where you're bothered by it and it's not going away. You got to do something about it, whether that's you address it, you confront it, you come to acceptance, you do meditation, talk to a doctor, talk to a psychiatrist, friend, a coach, whatever it is. Do something. Don't just let it fester and eat at you, because that shit can change your life in a bad way. So
100%. Yeah. No, sweet.
All right.
All good, man.
All right. Awesome, man.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, dude, thank you for being here. All right, guys. Cool. We're going to say goodbye to Brandon now, and he is live right now, and we're going to be rating him in just a couple of minutes. So, Brandon, thank you again for coming on, and we'll see you in a few. If you like the content, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. Also, follow us on Twitch and leave the notifications on. Feed your brain, feed your body, and see you next time.